Hi, and thanks for joining us. Over the next couple of minutes, we'll be looking at the ACE Foundation, of course, its various contours, the aspects of it, and how it's been impacting the lives of teachers and students across the world. We have with us in a makeshift studio this afternoon, Mr. Lama Johnson.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. What's the ACE Foundation and what's the ACE volunteer program?
The ACE Foundation ACE stands for the African-Centered Education, and it's a foundation. Ultimately, the ACE Foundation does three things. They develop schools over Africa, around Africa. So we have a school in Cameroon, and we also have a school in South Africa, in Johannesburg. But we're also very, very passionate about developing curriculum. So that if, for whatever reason, we can't reach you at the school, then you could at least get an opportunity to implement the African-centered educational curriculum at your school.
Right.
In addition to that, we also offer opportunities for students in Cameroon and students in South Africa to have some type of annex or type of aid in trying to get to the university, whether it's in Douala, whether it's in South Africa, or whether it's in the US. So in another way, we're kind of like almost like a college or university placement program as well.
In other words, you're saying the foundation is based in the US?
The foundation is based in South Africa, in Johannesburg.
Okay, and
not the US.
You come from the United States of America, from Houston to be very precise.
Yes, sir, I did.
And you came to volunteer for the ACE Foundation?
Yes,
program.
sir, I did.
So what's the volunteer program all about?
So the volunteer program is an opportunity to give educators in the United States an opportunity to teach from an African-centered perspective in Africa, either in Cameroon or in South Africa.
So what are the unique features of some of the ACE schools? You mentioned two, one in Douala, Cameroon, the other in Joburg, South Africa. How are they unique?
I think what makes the African American Academy and the African Union International School, that's the school in South Africa, what makes the school unique is its emphasis on character development. In that way, the school basically focuses on developing the character of the students at the pre-K level. So as soon as the students get here, 2, 3, 4 years old, we're developing the students to become leaders. And in that way, it kind of puts the American Academy, the African American Academy, in the realm of a leadership academy for the students.
How long have you been in Cameroon?
I've been in Cameroon since July of last year, so July of 2010. So it's about 9 months, going on 10 months now.
Under the volunteer program, of course, what would you say you benefited? What did you gain from the program?
The gains are endless, I think, but most importantly, I think what I've learned is how to do business outside of the United States, particularly in Cameroon. I've realized that when you're traveling from one place to the next, the way things go on is completely different. The communication is different. The currency is different. Not only physically, like, from francs to US dollars, but just the way in which you exchange with people. It's just very different.
You certainly came across some challenges.
Yes.
What are some of them?
I think the largest challenge that I came across was not being able to speak French when I arrived here.
Okay.
So, for the most part, Cameroonians are very, very passionate about the language that they speak first. Mm-hmm. And so, many times I've gotten scolded by Cameroonians because I speak English first, and then they're always like, no, if you come to if you come to Cameroon, you should be able to speak French. You should speak French to me, so on and so forth. So I think that was the biggest challenge, communicating.
How did you overcome that?
Just basically learning the French that I needed to be able to learn to be able to communicate with Cameroonians on a day-to-day basis. So I call it transactional French.
Okay. So, would you say you got all the assistance necessary from the ACE Foundation?
Yes, more than enough assistance. From the moment I stepped off the plane in Cameroon, I got a big African welcome. Everybody from the school was there to welcome me, to get introduced to me, and to aid me in anything that I needed. I had an aide to take me around to all of the grocery stores. They took us to the market to familiarize us with how to grocery shop here, how to purchase goods, how to bargain, how to negotiate, and things like that. And as well as the living arrangements, we're all very well taken care of. Housing was taken care of. I didn't have to do anything.
So how do you envision your future after this program?
I envision my future as a person who's seeking to get more and more information about what it requires to teach students from an African-centered perspective. I want to be, if anything, the who's who of the type of person that you can come to be able to be trained or to be taught or to learn some of the skills or to be able to get some of the tools needed to be able to transform students by teaching them from an African-centered perspective.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamar, for talking to us.
You're very welcome.
Would you come to Cameroon again if you had the chance?
Yes, definitely. If not for anything, for the food.
Right. Thanks for staying with us. We just finished talking with Mr. Lamar Johnson. We're going to talk to Miss Keisha Brown. She also is now Cameroonian. She came in from the United States of America a couple of months ago for the ACE volunteer program. We're going to find out what experience she gathered from the program and how it's going to shape her future, if you don't mind, her destiny. Welcome, Miss Brown.
Thank you for having me.
That's right. Is that the first time you're coming to Africa?
Technically, no. I've been to Egypt before, but it's the first time I've been to part of Africa that is strictly of African descent.
That's right. I don't want to find out what you went to do in Egypt, but I know you came to Cameroon for the ACE volunteer program.
Yes, that's correct.
What is that? How did you come to know about it? How did you get involved?
Well, actually, I got a recommendation from another colleague who's also working here, Miss Amalu. The two of us went to university together, and she knew that I was teaching in New York City and that I was in a transitional period. She recommended that I apply. So basically, from my understanding in the US, they were looking for teachers from the States to kind of bring their experience and apply in this African-centered framework.
So basically, what did you do?
I filled out an application. I sent in recommendations. I had several interviews with Mr. and Mrs. Tchameni.
Okay.
And when they were impressed enough with my application, I accepted the invitation to come.
Tell me about your work in Cameroon. What did you do in Cameroon?
So while in Cameroon, I've had two roles. I've been a teacher here at the school, and I've also been the primary school student advisor. As a teacher, I was teaching grades 3 and 4 in the same classroom, taking care of usual teacher business, lesson planning, assessment. But as a student advisor, I was responsible for all aspects of student life outside of the classroom. So the mental health of the children, extracurricular activities, mentoring, just making sure, discipline, making sure the students were happy and well behaved and being taken care of.
And what difference do you make from, is there a difference between students in Africa and those you've been teaching back in the US?
Well, there's definitely a difference. That's probably been one of the most remarkable takeaways I've had from this experience. I don't want to say there's a difference per se in the students, but there's a difference in the emphasis of discipline in this school compared to the schools that I had been at. The character aspect of the African American Academy is huge, and the way they implement that with the idea of African-centeredness is what made the difference between the students I taught here and the students I taught in New York City.
Now you're going back. What do you take along from this experience?
I take with me the whole notion of African-centeredness as being something you can apply to all aspects of your life. Definitely a model on how to implement character in education throughout. And whenever I find myself working with children, and I'm committed to working for children my whole life, I'm always going to take that aspect of character in whatever I do.
How long did you spend in Cameroon?
I spent 9 months.
Did you have some particular problems?
Particular problems. Honestly, I feel like I transitioned very well. My personal background is, I guess, complementary to the lifestyle here. Although I'm American, my family comes from Jamaica and also Barbados. Okay. So what I remarked on most since being here were the similarities between life there in the Caribbean and life here in Cameroon. So I feel like I adjusted very well, actually.
Now, staying off campus, did you meet some Cameroonian men?
Yes, I did.
Did they disturb you? Did they?
No, I didn't have very much disturbances in that regard.
So they let you alone to do your work?
Yes.
And let me just find out, if you were supposed to propose something, you know, to improve and ameliorate the ACE volunteer program, what would that be?
Well, coming here as a volunteer, my greatest challenge was balancing, I guess, all of the different responsibilities we have.
So are you planning to reshape your future, your destiny with graduating from this program?
Yes, I am. Since I've been here, I've had some insight into some things I might want to try later on. As I said, I'm committed to working for children, but I may not necessarily be in the classroom. I've been thinking constantly about how the children I used to teach could be more, how I could help them be more like the children they're producing in these schools. So my goal is to maybe create some kind of a nonprofit that would implement that character aspect with those children in New York that have very high needs, and see how I could help them become more like students here.
Right. Thanks for coming in, ladies and gentlemen. That was our short talk with Miss Keisha Brown. In a couple of minutes, we'll get another guest. That will be Adisa. He's a student at the African American Academy. We'll talk to him about his experience so far and what he intends to become in the future. Don't go away.
The ACE Volunteer Program is a 1 or 2 year program that places Americans, Africans in the diaspora in an ACE Foundation school in Douala, Cameroon, or Johannesburg, South Africa. It's a program that develops your leadership and teaching skills, and it's a program for people who are interested in bringing the best of their qualities to help the future generation of Africans. Well, just going back to what I said about developing leadership skills, I believe that this is a very distinguishing characteristic of the ACE Foundation schools. Not only do the schools focus on academic excellence, but building character and developing strong leadership skills in Africans is one of the pillars of the school. That in and of itself makes it a unique school among schools in the world. It's a school that focuses on cultural pride, on team spirit, team developing, and specifically for Africans by Africans, that making it unique. The character development program. Well, what we have here is not only do we say we're trying to develop leadership skills, we actually do that. Every morning, students are taking a class from kindergarten to grade 12, are enrolled in character development. And in the primary school level, what this looks like is putting children together in a room and teaching them social skills. How do you share and care with your friends? How do you resolve problems in a progressive way and not a regressive way? In the secondary level, we're teaching students about cultural values that are unique and specific to African people. Values that transcend just what you do in the classroom, but speak to social aspects, economic aspects of your life. In that sense, it goes beyond just what you learn in the books, but what you learn from each other and from your own history.
Thanks for staying with us. After talking with the volunteer teachers on the ACE program, we now receive the student. Welcome, Adisa Tariq Smith.
Yes.
You're 15 years old, right?
Yes, I am.
Is that your first time in Africa?
Yes, it is.
It's your first time for the ACE program?
Yes, it is.
Now tell me, what experience did you gather? You're leaving for the United States as soon as possible.
Yes.
What experience are you taking back home?
I have learned at the African American Academy, I have learned to view everything that happens to me and everything that surrounds me from an African perspective, which means that I see everything for the benefits of Africa, which is different from most schools in America because you see things from a European perspective. You see things and how they interact with either America or someplace in Europe, which is the complete opposite of ACE Foundation schools. You learn to see things from your perspective.
What kind of challenges did you encounter, and how did you surmount them?
My biggest challenge by far was adjusting to the different languages that everyone was speaking. Most of the students in the African Union International School are from Central Africa or from Europe, which means most of them speak French, and I had to learn to understand in order to be able to interact with them.
How do you speak a bit of French, which means there's something you're taking back
Yes,
home?
I've taken French back home.
Now, how long did you stay in Africa?
I was there 2 years. I was 13 when I arrived, and I'm 15 now, going back home.
Right, so you got lots and lots of stories to tell the people, but what do you do after this program in Cameroon?
I'm going to go back to America. I'm going to get my high school diploma. I'm going to get my university. I'm going to get my bachelor's degree, my master's, and I'm going to come back here and I'm going to work for the benefit of Africa.
So you plan to come back and settle here?
Of course.
Right, so academically, how is this program going to shape your future?
Academically, I learned how to study in a African American academy. I was never used to sitting down and dedicating any amount of time to just studying, which was something that ACE Foundation schools teach you how to do. You have to sit down, you have to apply yourself for a certain amount of time, and after you can have your fun, do whatever you want to do, but for that certain amount of time, you have to be studying, and I learned how to do that.
Thank you very much for talking to us.
You're welcome.
And so that's the end of it. We finally came to the end of the road. Thanks for staying there and staying good to this special cut, this special show just for you. Bye bye and catch you somewhere.